you would expect him to feel a little defeated, a little gaunt, anything like that. But it wasn't that case. He appeared confident. He stood tall. But most importantly and most notably, when he walked inside the courtroom, the first thing that he looked at was his family.
In terms of presenting the electronic evidence or getting their witnesses lined up, it may be part and parcel of the defense's strategy to push this case to trial as quickly as possible.
Meanwhile, there are other reports that Diddy has stopped eating. This could be because he isn't enjoying the food, but it also could be because he's paranoid that someone is out to get him and may slip poison into his food.
Diddy and his lawyers have been working hard to keep him out of jail, but so far without success. With family support and a confident attitude in court, he seems intent on sending a message. There are shocking developments surrounding his fears of being targeted in jail, remarks from his rival, Suge Knight, and his unusually calm demeanor in court. Despite his attempts to appear at his best, public opinion has largely already judged him, leaving Diddy's future uncertain regardless of his legal defense.
Yeah, Jesse, it was pretty interesting because I think, we have seen many photos, videos of Sean Combs, aka Diddy, through the Associated Press, through Instagram. And so to see him kind of in person after being in jail for 3 weeks now was pretty interesting, to say the least. And I say that by being that you would expect him to feel a little defeated, a little gaunt, anything like that. But it wasn't that case. He appeared confident. He stood tall. But most importantly and most notably, when he walked inside the courtroom, the first thing that he looked at was his family. As soon as he saw his family, he just lit up. Another thing to note too is he wasn't shackled, but he was wearing a khaki prison-like jumpsuit when he appeared inside court, and his family appeared on their end very just happy to see him. Now, I will say, when I was inside the courtroom, I was a little bit towards the back right side of the gallery, and so for seeing Sean Combs, I had to look through a few heads and stuff like that. But again, he appeared just kind of confident walking inside that courtroom, and it might have just been the look that his family.
Despite the feds pressing on, many believe Diddy is subtly threatening others from court. His confident, unapologetic stance at the hearing, backed by his supportive family, paints him as a defiant figure with a strong family image. Disturbing messages surrounding his case only add to the speculation.
Janice Combs, who sat by Justin, then it was followed by Chance, the twins, Jesse and Delilah, Quincy, and then Christian Combs, aka King. And so again, once they all saw their father, they all smiled at him, waved at him. And even when we were all leaving the courthouse today, Diddy just blew kisses at his mother and his family members. They didn't say much of anything. I wasn't outside when they had first entered the courthouse, so I'm not sure if they said anything to the press. Previously, they had been very quiet whenever they had entered the courtroom, so I assume it'll be kind of like that as well.
Regardless of his repeated bail requests, judges seem determined to keep Diddy in the Metropolitan Detention Center. Meanwhile, the latest hearing revealed that the feds are still analyzing data from devices seized during the raids, suggesting there's much more to uncover.
A lot of us were kind of expecting there to be arguments about the bail or the bond. That really didn't happen, and the judge ordered that the defendant, Sean Combs, stay inside the MDNC, which we know the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, New York. And so as far as what we know now is that we know May 5th is going to be the date, tentatively, that the trial does begin. So we have a lot of stuff that we're expecting to see. So the data mainly still has to be extracted. Now, the government was kind of talking about just some of the devices are a little bit older, so the government in turn is kind of catching up to the technology there. But they say at the airport they seized 9 different devices. 7 of those have been extracted so far. At Miami, 36 different devices were seized. 29 were extracted, and in LA, 51 devices were seized. 24 have been extracted. Excuse me. They say the 8 terabytes of data, that information could come about in the next 2 weeks or so, and they're working on the production, another production of the subpoena returns. And so the defense pretty much didn't object to too much inside the courtroom today. Agnifilo also appeared kind of confident during his arguments. I know a lot of people were kind of expecting for the bail or bond argument to be happening, but that didn't happen, and it appeared that the defense kind of, I'm trying to find the right word here, but they were pretty much complying with all the prosecution's arguments and plan to kind of have everything all good and set to go by May. Now, by the time the end of the year is to happen, I forgot one big turn right here. They did mention that a potential superseding indictment.
Former federal prosecutor Eder noted that it's unlikely the case will go to trial by May 2025 due to the overwhelming amount of evidence, a factor the defense may use to their advantage.
Our general counsel here at Law and Crime, Elizabeth Vulai. But also, I am joined by criminal defense attorney Nima Rahmani. Good to see you. Thanks so much. Happy to have you both here. Nima, I'll start with you. I mean, the idea of a May 2025 trial date, and we talked about it before on the show, that Sean Combs, if he thinks he's going to be locked up, obviously wants to go to trial as soon as possible. I get it. He's kind of putting the prosecution's feet to the fire. But you heard Elizabeth. Terabytes of data, all this to go through, a production schedule. This really going to happen in May, this trial?
Probably not, but Diddy's lawyers may want to jam up the government if they think there's any chance they're not ready in terms of presenting the electronic evidence or getting their witnesses lined up. It may be part and parcel of the defense's strategy to push this case to trial as quickly as possible. Obviously, we know Combs is in custody, so there's really no point for him to wait. We know that the defense case is going to be limited. When Judge Subramanian asked for a time estimate today, the prosecution gave 3 weeks. The defense only gave 1 week, which means that they're going to base this case mostly on cross-examination.
Experts point out that the RACHO charges enable the government to consolidate multiple accusations against Diddy, showing they're well prepared to strengthen their case. Next voice. There's talk that the feds may add a new defendant to weaken Diddy's control over the case. With multiple defendants, others may start acting in their own interests, adding pressure to Diddy's defense.
Government is going to be kind of like rushing a little bit. I understand that they're still getting subpoenas are being responded to still. So they don't even have all their evidence together yet. And so demanding a speedy trial really is going to force the government to get their act together really fast and not have that additional time. But I think that the government was also smart in not overcomplicating this case by making it much bigger than it needed to be. Like, for instance, what happened down in, y'all's neck of the woods in Atlanta with the YSL RICO trial that's going on. So, you've got a much simpler, indictment, 14 pages long, really one identifiable victim, but I think that there's probably others that are contained within it. So we'll see if that May date sticks. If there's superseding indictments, it's probably going to get continued, I would think, because there's just, that would automatically cause that to happen.
Diddy's lawyers are framing the wild parties as consensual, but everything could change if attorney Tony Busby's 120 new allegations are filed. As minors cannot consent, adding a complex layer to the case.
I don't know if there'll necessarily be new charges against P. Diddy, maybe, or maybe more identifiable victims, but I think that you're also going to maybe potentially see some co-conspirators that are identified that played a significant role in this vast conspiracy that's taken place over the course of the last 30 years. So, with other defendants involved, that can also, Sean Combs will be in less control over when this trial goes and how it plays out.
Well, let's talk, though, about the fact the feds don't play. I mean, generally, they don't bring a case until they have their ducks in a row and the evidence ready to go. And so I have to believe that, yes, some of those things might cause delays, and it's a great defense team. But I also think the feds are well prepared with evidence on hand to proceed against him.
Another concern is that Diddy may have been directly involved in leaking a tape of an A-lister from prison. Some speculate it could be a warning to others in Hollywood to remain silent or risk having their reputations ruined.
As quickly as possible, because we know under the Speedy Trial Act, unless they waive time or time is excluded, the government technically has to get this to trial within 70 days.
So let me just follow up on that. If he's hit with a superseding indictment, right, and we don't know what those charges could be, we don't know if there could be multiple defendants, we don't know if they're respect to potentially minors. No, am I crazy to think that there's no way this trial is then going to happen in May?
It's unlikely, especially if there's a superseding indictment involving minors, because minors present a completely different set of circumstances, because we know through his lawyers, Combs is arguing that the sexual activity happened, but it was consensual. Of course, for sex trafficking, you need one of those three elements: force, fraud, or coercion. Obviously, minors cannot consent to any sexual activity, so that would be a very different defense entirely. The defense would have to be that the activity didn't happen at all and the individuals are lying. So I think that's going to be the potential game changer if we do get the minors wrapped up into a superseding indictment. And we know, at least if you believe the civil attorneys, there are 25 minor victims, one of which is as young as 9.
And those suits haven't been filed yet, but that's what Tony Busby, this Texas attorney, has indicated that we should expect.
The feds have presented evidence that Diddy attempted to contact witnesses to threaten or coerce them, which has been a significant factor in his repeated bail denials.
We've got an attorney with us now. We have Ariel. She's joining us now. So who do you think that this star is, that we've got this unidentified male? And how could this be impacting the case?
I know who it is, which I'm not going to say out of respect, but how is it going to impact the case? I think the impact would be more so if that person was revealed. It would be, I think, shocking to everyone, kind of shocking, but not shocking at the same time. And I think it would just goes to show about the pattern of Mr. Combs' behavior against other people, like Mrs. Ventura and like the person that was in the video.
Ariel Mitchell, the lawyer for one of Diddy's accusers, believes the feds are determined to keep him behind bars given his current treatment. Despite his offers, including a $50 million mansion, he remains in jail.
I think it's more so about him being a flight risk than tampering. We have seen some evidence where he, specifically with one of the members of Dirty Money, as we all know, Don Richard had filed a lawsuit against Diddy. And then the other member of that Dirty Money group came out and essentially undermined her claim and said, oh, well, I didn't see anything. I don't know anything about this. And then we later found out that Diddy called her 54 times in a row. Oh. So I think that those situations lend to maybe some issues with tampering. And I do feel like there are victims who are scared to come forward, including my client. She was very nervous about if he was going to get bail this week. And once I told her, and then come after people, including her and some of the other individuals, and she was very relieved when he did not receive bail. So I think the issue is a combination of things, not only tampering.
Diddy's son, Christian King, may soon be called to testify. He has faced accusations of sexual assault, and former bodyguard Gene Deal has suggested that King was responsible for the leak of the Cassie video, claiming he was unaware of his actions.
Again, in America, we have innocent until proven guilty, but then there's a certain amount of guilty and a certain amount of innocent. So I think we're leaning more towards the guilty side just because of what we've seen in the past with Mr. Combs' behavior, what we've seen in terms of the sheer amount of plaintiffs in civil court who have filed cases against him, as well as, like I said before, him being a flight risk and having the means and wherewithal to actually take flight and leave the country so he doesn't have to face his crimes in criminal court. So I think taking the totality of the circumstances, the court is being careful to make sure they don't do something that allows Mr. Combs to avoid justice.
And I told y'all, the Southern District of New York do not play. So King Kong just put another battery in their back. And you see, after he did that shit, something get leaked to the press. Do you notice that, right? As soon as he did that dumb shit, talking about, well, we did this and we did that. We had this over here. Y'all went to the wrong house. Some went to, said, well, we're going to show you how wrong we are. Yo, CNN, run this. Action, roll them. Don't play with the feds, bro. Because you got to realize this. They got a lot of time. All they got is time. They going to sit there, people sitting up there, and they want something. See, people like a fix. They need that fix real quick. They want them to hurry up and charge Diddy with something or see what they got on him. The feds gonna take their time. May take 6 months, may take a year, may take 2 years. They got up to 3 years to bring their case up. They got 3 years. So they checking everything about them. They're gonna dot all the I's and cross all the T's.
The deal emphasized that despite calls for a swift trial, The feds have the determination to prolong proceedings as necessary, ensuring they come out on top in the end.
Was telling me that, yo, listen here, yo, he trying to get witnesses. Remember when they released that first thing of Cassie, and I said that Diddy was trying to contact people for character witnesses, people for
him coming to LA so soon after Tupac got killed, and him getting on the radio rapping "Long Kiss Goodnight."
Man, you would get 100 people in the room, and out of the 100 people, probably 3 would say it was all right for Big to be in LA. 97% of those people would say he had no business in LA at that time. We all knew that. Why would Puff rent studio time? Come on, man, look. You gotta look at what people do, man. You know Pac just got killed. It ain't no kind of business Big was doing. Big couldn't even walk, he couldn't run. They was pushing him around in a wheelchair, brother. Why the hell would you rent studio time in LA for him to finish your album when in fact you got your own studio, Daddy's house? Let's keep it a buck. Let's stop this bullshit, man. What? Since 97. Since 97. Since I seen Miss Wallace. You know what I'm saying? To hold Miss Wallace's hand and explain to what happened to her son that night. It was one of the, I guess, most emotional times I've ever had in my life. Because here I am explaining how your son died. When he was calling Miss Wallace, I was screaming, yo, tell her I want to talk to her, I want to talk to her. But they had me on mute. But him being an outright brother and straight, he said, yo, Miss Wallace, I got Jean on the phone. And she said, Jean Deal? And he said, yeah, Jean Deal. He want to speak to her. She said, I watch his stuff on Facebook and YouTube all the time. And I was like, yo, my man, to hear Miss Wallace, Big Mother say that, brother, it sent a chill down me because it reminded me of Wolf Mother, Miss Mama Jones. She gave me her right to say what I needed to say on the behalf of her son. She gave me her blessings. She came on my program. So, bruh, to hear Miss Wallace say that, and I said, and the first thing I said as a gentleman, I said, hey, Miss Wallace, how you doing? And then I wanted her to know that I respect her to the fullest. And the first thing I said was, Miss Wallace, if you tell me to stop, leave Puff, stop, no, I didn't say leave Puff. If you tell me to stop doing what I'm doing, I will. She said, no, G, I watch you. You keep doing it. You doing a good job. You, man, listen here. Yo, I was happier than one of them boys at a Diddy party. I was so happy, man, it was crazy. Cause this was the first time I had talked to Miss Wallace since the last time I talked to her and was telling her about Big's death. And she said I didn't want to hear no more.
Meanwhile, more high-profile victims may come forward about Diddy, with Jaguar Wright claiming that the legendary Janet Jackson was also not spared from his actions.
All of that was going on when Diddy was harassing her.
Oh.
Because he's been harassing her.
Oh, shit.
For years.
Janet? Yeah. Damn, man.
And they won't talk about it.
I can see him.
So when I hear Orlando bringing up the Janet Jackson thing and saying it in his little code word, I know what that means. I know what he's saying. But the truth is Janet is under heavy scrutiny. She did what she had to do to survive. She's strong. It's just that Jackson family stigma.
And abuse of power. prominent attorney Gloria Allred, who has represented accusers of Harvey Weinstein, Bill Cosby, and R. Kelly, speaking exclusively with Eyewitness News. She now represents an undisclosed number of Sean Diddy Combs' alleged victims, including Talia Graves.
The trauma of the assault has taken a toll on my mental health.
Consent is a big issue, and it is the government's burden in a criminal case to prove any charge and all charges beyond a reasonable doubt. That's a very high burden of proof.
Combs is now asking a federal judge for a trial date next April or May, and we could see ex-girlfriend Cassandra Cassie Ventura take the witness stand. This despite an undisclosed settlement reached one day after Ventura filed a lawsuit against Combs last November, accusing him of rape and abuse.
Even if there are confidential civil settlements, there's always an exception in the law. They can still testify in a court of law if they are subpoenaed to do so.
For now, Diddy will continue his battle from jail, despite reports that he fears someone might attempt to poison him.
There are other reports that Diddy has stopped eating. This could be because he isn't enjoying the food, but it also could be because he's paranoid that someone is out to get him and may slip poison into his food. But is that likely or even possible? And what are the perils of MDC, especially for a high-profile defendant like Diddy?
So Diddy's life in the SHU, in that specialized housing unit where he's been placed for his own safety, is going to be something that's rather routine and mundane. He's not going to be necessarily even enjoying some of the things that general population, aka Gen Pop, enjoys, because he's being in a special segregated unit for his own safety, which means he's going to be under more constant observation by guards. His comings and goings in and out of his cell for recreational time and for mealtime are going to be more scrutinized. So although the SHU unit is technically for the prison inmate's safety, and of course Diddy being a high-profile inmate requires that, it also means more restrictions for that inmate.
Will his actions become more desperate the longer he remains behind bars? Only time will tell. That's all for now. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments below. And for more updates, hit the bell icon.